Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm going to be looking at December 2020 for the sign of Aquarius. Now, you may not know this, but if you're a familiar viewer of mine, you'll know I like to be astrological. I like to really talk about the things that are going on, giving them labels and names, because it really shows you that something's happening here. I just don't have this fantasy life going on in my head and I make things up. And, part of doing this is to actually have a chart that I can show you. And this serves two purposes, because not only can you see it, but also it helps and reminds me where I need to go to. So here is the zodiac circle from the perspective of Aquarius for the month of December. And you'll probably notice straight off the bat that there's quite a lot of planets grouped around this area and another few floating around here. And what happens when you've got quite a lot of planets in one area is you get a real high focus in those areas of the chart. But it also adds a certain tension to life. So you may feel as though life is pretty intense. And of course, if you know a little bit about astrology and you know where your own natal chart is, you can probably see that grouping somewhere else in your chart. But nevertheless, the solar principle, how things look from the solar perspective, lends a lot of light and understanding to why things are the way they are. So we start the month out with Venus here in the area of life direction and career. Now, this is an important area, even if you don't have a career, because it is about where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And we make all our most ambitious plans when we've got planets moving through this area of the horoscope. And of course, Venus being the planet of love, this might be a particularly important period through until the 15th, where meeting people with a view to gaining promotion or to getting a job or to getting a higher profile or to doing things in your world that amount to the things you want to have happen is really important. We always need people to help us get places. And with Venus here, we find that help. I have to say it might also mean that Venus is a very prominent planet in the way that she brings love into your life. So this could be an important period for making plans to do with a love relationship, whether those kind of plans are where you're going to spend a holiday or a little bit more important than that. Shall we move in together? Are we an official couple? Shall we get married? Those kind of things. And also, if you are on the dating scene, it might be that you will tend to meet people at not necessarily at work, but in places of importance. So, the first thing I thought of then was a cathedral, but, a place of learning or an important building. And perhaps the whole idea of work and people in positions of power plays a little bit into your love life. But really and truly, perhaps the most important thing of December, well, there are two or three actually, but this is one of them. You can see here in black and white, and that is the solar eclipse. It's a total solar eclipse, and it occurs on the 14th of December. Now, the solar eclipse is in the sign of Sagittarius, so it does have some overtones of far horizons about it. I mean, Sagittarius is a sign that looks to far horizons, has a kind of global effect. And it is in our charts, really, anything Sagittarius is where we go out of our comfort zone. We look, beyond the things we know about for interest, for all sorts of things. And it's also about education and knowledge. So that total solar eclipse may have some kind of aspect of all of that about it. But more importantly, it's where it takes place in your solar chart. And it's here in the area of collaborations and creativity. Now, it's really important because it might, on the one hand, suggest, because a solar eclipse is a new moon eclipse, and new moons denote new beginnings, that there's a new project about to begin, or it's about to come in, and it will turn out to be very important. If you're at all entrepreneurial, or you have a business, then this total solar eclipse is going to be very important for that, because it means a whole new dimension is going to come into that entrepreneurial project. And if you're sitting here watching me and thinking, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, and no, I don't do things that are related to my own business, but on the other hand, I have some ideas, then this total solar eclipse is about turning those ideas into action. At the very least, mapping out how it would be possible, and then also with Venus up here in the area of life direction, talking to people who can help manifest your ideas, even manifest your dreams. Now, this total solar eclipse, it has a kind of six-month lifeline, because in 6 months' time, that's May the 26th of 2021, we'll get a full moon, and it's also a total lunar eclipse, this one. So the period in between this time could see the development of something really important, a creative project of some description. But I tell you what else it could be. And of course, not everybody is going to be in the mind or the frame for this, but the idea of a gestation period has its most literal presentation in the sense of a baby. It takes a baby 9 months to be ready to be born. So for some Aquarians, this total solar eclipse is about a baby. It's about having a baby, or a baby coming into the family, or maybe you're going to become a godparent, something like that. But anyway, it is significant in terms of bringing forward new life. And of course, that can be a figurative expression. You can bring forward a new project, new life in that way. You can also bring forward new life in the sense of having a new start, a new feel towards your life. But also it can be literal, the idea of the patter of tiny feet. Now, also in this earlier part of the month, up to about the 15th or so, we've got Neptune, quite a big player. Neptune for you is in the area of money and resources. So the angles it's going to make to the Sun on the 9th and Mercury on the 13th are times when you need to be a little bit more careful about money, especially if you're online and you're doing online transactions. It'll be very easy to press the wrong button or do something that could get you in hot water, and anything watery is Neptunian. But also, if you're doing something a little bit more important than that, you're maybe making a major investment, making a really, really big purchase. You really want to make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed and everybody is on the same page. Because sometimes when you've got Mercury and the Sun in aspect to Neptune, things are not watertight at all. So you have to pay a little bit more attention. The good side of Sun and Mercury attached to Neptune is always in inspiration and also in high level feelings of compassion and love and romance. So that's also a possibility for this first, let's say, 15 days or so of the month. Now, the next really, really important thing to happens here, and it's in your sign. And what's going on here is that Saturn is coming into the sign of Aquarius, and it does that on the 17th of December. It's going to remain in your sign for 2.5 years. And during that time, there are going to be some very important developments. Now, I always say that with Saturn in your sign, you acquire gravitas. And that means you acquire standing. People take you more seriously. You're more serious about things that you want to accomplish in your life. But Saturn also brings opposition and obstruction. And the idea of opposition and obstruction is there for a purpose. It's there to make you stronger, and it's there to make you more convinced of your ambitions and your desires. They're tests in some ways. And I think if you look at the Saturnian blips that come into your life, as they will do over the next 2.5 years, and you see them as tests of your mettle, they become purposeful and you're going to meet the requirements. And the other thing that's so important is that on the 19th, Jupiter arrives in Aquarius. And Jupiter is the exact opposite to Saturn. If Saturn makes hard work of things and restricts and causes you to learn hard lessons, Jupiter is all about good fortune, growth, increase. And that's going to be with you in your sign for a whole year. So it is a terribly good time to really get moving and motoring on things that you want to really build and have as structures in your life. Remember, here I was talking about entrepreneurial ideas, collaborations. Well, Jupiter is very entrepreneurial too. And if you go into an entrepreneurial venture with Jupiter in your sign, it should be successful. One other little point I want to mention before I come back here is that when Venus is also in this area, this entrepreneurial collaborative area, and she'll be there from the 15th of the month right through to the very end of it, and actually in the early part of January as well, not only is it a good time to form collaborations and projects, but sometimes love grows out of a working friendship or a friendship. And that's an important thing to remember. A friendship that may have been platonic can turn romantic, and that's certainly going to be on the cards for some Aquarians. But back here, I'm going to come to Jupiter and Saturn again, because on the 21st, these two planets conjoin. And this is the first time they've been together for 20 years. The last time was in the year 2000. So it is really, really significant. And to have it in your own sign, of course, is super significant. It becomes a very good time to make a power statement. I was thinking of all the sorts of things one might do on a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. It's becoming official. So how would you become official? Well, maybe you come of age. That's one thing. But also, let's say you decided to become a citizen of the country. You would do that on a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Perhaps you decide to own a home or to go into business. That's very official too. And Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions are really, really very good for material transactions, material statements, and finance. So that might be very well worth bearing in mind. And I think the idea that the moon is in Aquarius as Saturn comes in, not quite as Jupiter, really reinforces this idea that Aquarius, you know, if you're open, sensitive, intuitive, ready to, you know, your moment has come, then this might very well be that moment. The 21st, which sees the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, is also the date the sun moves into your 12th house. And it'll be moving through this 12th house through a good part of January as well. And in many ways, this is a time to find respite from the world. It's a time to focus on the health of mind, body, and spirit, and to take it a little slower. But having said that, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is a time of great new beginnings and making power statements. Perhaps that idea of rest and respite comes in a little bit more towards the end of the month and into the early part of the new year. Finally, I want to talk about the full moon of the 30th of December. Here's the moon in Cancer, here's the sun in Capricorn. This is on the axis of health and well-being. And I would suggest that this probably isn't the new year to have a riotous New Year's Eve. Well, of course, I think coronavirus has put pay to a lot of those New Year's celebrations for all of us. But really, a full moon on this axis makes you a little bit more vulnerable health-wise, and, you know, emotionally and mentally and spiritually too. So ideally, towards the end of the month, you really do need to put your feet up, take time out, and not put too much stress and strain on yourself. So I'm going to come back into the room and say goodbye to you and thank you for watching. I hope you get a lot out of these monthly videos. My intention, of course, is to give you a map, give you a roadmap, because with a roadmap, at least you know the route ahead, even if you can't always know exactly the nature of experiences that will happen to you. I look forward to speaking to you next month and in between times on my twice monthly videos, which tend to be a little bit more astrological. Bye for now.